year marks the 10th anniversary of the eviction of the Oplats movement. We still remember the demands and the echoes of voices of thousands of people saying, "You cannot evict a movement." This month, Europe and Germany continue to wage their racist and fascist war against refugees and migrants. Germany has retrograded and fascism is present everywhere. Our fight continues.
Woo!
The EU effectively abolished the fundamental right to asylum. In Germany, mass accommodation centers for refugees, the Lager, will force refugees to work for a sum of money that is beyond inhumane. For 80 cents an hour, refugees will have the obligation to work, often doing the cleaning services that the state is not willing to pay for. If they refuse to work, their benefits can be cut by 180 euros per month. The degradation and dehumanization has no limits. Germany has re-implemented new forms of residence lists and the Bezahlen Karten, cards that will determine where refugees can buy what goods and services. Refugees will no longer be able to pay in cash. Bezahlkarten are disenfranchising, unconstitutional, and racist.
Ooh!
EU politicians have agreed on faster asylum procedures, more deportations, and less money for refugees with the GEAS reform. GEAS will relieve singular countries of the EU from their responsibility for migration. The Eurodac, the European database, is a violent surveillance tool that enforces the EU's discriminatory and hostile asylum and migration policies, increasing deportations, detentions, and a broader climate of racialized criminalization. People will be deported to countries they have never lived in. Refugees are burning the skin of their thumbs to prevent their fingerprints and thus their data from being saved. So many refugees die on their way to Europe, are found dead without proper investigation when they arrive, or commit suicide because their experiences are so painful. Having a neutral stance towards things that kill us is not an option for us. This includes climate change.
Woo!
Now, one person is likely of dying from hunger every 48 seconds in drought-ravaged countries in Africa. I repeat that. One person is likely of dying from hunger every 48 seconds in drought-ravaged countries in Africa. Nothing about the climate crisis is natural. It is rooted in the history of colonialism, imperialism, white supremacy, and capitalism. Death through famine occurs because our lands can no longer produce enough food. When it doesn't rain, we die. When it rains, we die. With industrial ships the size of airplanes, Europe profits by overfishing African coasts, leaving our countries with nothing. Droughts, earthquakes, heat waves, and floods have become far too frequent. It is the reason for climate refugees and migrants are forced to leave. Climate change is political, and migration is a right. Seeking asylum is a right.
Woo!
Thank you. Carbon is turned into a commodity that can be traded. Again, the global south is becoming an investment opportunity where our lands are commodified. This relation takes away the emission rights from the local communities to polluters who want to finance their own industrialization and capitalist processes. The global north is dumping its waste into the global south. By outsourcing its waste, the global north relieves itself of the responsibility of managing consumerism and waste responsibility and waste management. The so-called sustainable forestry of the global north seeks to plant monoculture tree plantations in African countries. Under green capitalism, locals suffer from the loss of crops, forest resources, and livelihoods. And now, the EU has the so-called Repower EU, which is a part of EU's Green Deal. Repower EU is aimed at finding alternative sources of energy for Europe. These alternatives are Europe's latest neo-colonial resource grab.
Woo!
Politicians who deny climate change actively support right-wing parties. Fossil is feeding fascism. Planting trees in the global south is ineffective. It will do nothing for the carbon stored below ground, and it is unsustainable. It is based on land grabbing, deforestation, biodiversity loss, food insecurity, and conflict. It takes away the local and indigenous rights and culture, the way they interact with their land, and the economic and social system that is tied to it. Even though the countries in the global south emit the list, they are given this responsibility, while the West countries continues its status quo. We see through your motives of profitability. When we talk about climate justice, we demand an end to greenwashing and this pollution colonialism. Extreme weather conditions occur after our land, its infrastructure, and its resources have been exploited. Whether it is the American occupation effectively shutting down the agricultural sector and exports in Haiti, or the extraction of cobalt, copper, gold, lithium, and other minerals in the Democratic Republic of Congo, or the floods in Pakistan, or the land theft in Palestine, we see how when it comes to resources, imperialist countries will corrupt our governments, support genocide, and walk over dead bodies. We cannot create climate justice by using the same tools that brought us here in the first place. Capitalism, consumerism, extractivism, and a white supremacist gaze. We see through your fossil fuel fascism, your neo-colonial resource grab, and the suffering caused by extractive capitalism. Despite all that has happened to us, we remain resilient. We are here and we will stay here. As grassroots organizations all around the world, when we unite, we are strong. So I'm gonna say Amandla, and the response is Awetu. It's almost like the power, and then you say Awetu is like belongs to us. So Amandla, Awetu, Amandla, Awetu, Amandla, Awetu. Thank you all.